The 100-Camel Bounty.
If you do not aid the Prophet, Allah has already aided him when those who disbelieved had driven him out of Mecca, as one of two, when they were in the cave, and he said to his companion, reassuringly, "Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us." Surah At-Tawbah 9 verse 40. Have you ever stood at a crossroads in your life where one path leads to immense worldly wealth and the other to an unknown, terrifying truth? What happens when a man driven by greed sets out to hunt down a fugitive, only to find himself hunted by miracles? Could it be that the greatest treasures are promised not in moments of power and victory, but in moments of utter desperation and weakness? Our story begins in the year 622 CE in a Mecca that was a pressure cooker of simmering rage. For 13 long years, the powerful chieftains of the Quraysh had tried to silence the message of their kinsman, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace and blessings be upon him. They had tried mockery, slander, torture, and boycott. Nothing had worked. The new faith of Islam, a call to worship one God and to uphold human dignity, continued to win the hearts of the noble and the enslaved alike. The city was in a state of crisis. The traditional authority of the Quraysh was eroding, their idols were being declared worthless, and their entire way of life was being challenged. Their frustration finally curdled into a dark, final solution. In their council hall, they hatched a plot to assassinate the Prophet. But under the cover of night, by the command of Allah, the Prophet and his closest companion, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, had vanished. When the morning sun rose over Mecca, the city erupted in chaos. The Prophet was gone. The fury of the Quraysh was boundless. They immediately announced a bounty so vast it made the blood of every tracker and warrior in the desert run hot with greed. For the man who could bring back Muhammad, dead or alive, the prize was 100 red camels, a fortune of unimaginable wealth, enough to make a man a legend of his tribe. The hunt was on. Every skilled tracker, every ambitious young warrior, every Bedouin who knew the secret paths of the desert joined the chase. Among them was a man named Suraqa ibn Malik. Saraka was not just any Bedouin. He was a master tracker, a renowned warrior from the tribe of Mudlij, known for his prized stallion, his sharp spear, and his uncanny ability to follow a trail over the most unforgiving terrain. He was a man of status, but the lure of 100 camels was a temptation that could sway even the most established of men. He was sitting in a gathering of his tribe when a man came in and mentioned he had seen 3 figures traveling on the road towards Yathrib, Medina. Suraqa's heart. He didn't want to share the bounty, so he quickly dismissed the man's claim, saying it was probably just so-and-so whom they had sent on an errand. He sat for a while longer, feigning disinterest, until the others had forgotten about it. Then he slipped away to his home. His greed was a fire in his gut. He ordered his slave girl to lead his finest warhorse out to a hidden spot behind a hill. He took his sharpest spear. In the shimmering heat of the Arabian morning, Suraqa ibn Malik, the master hunter, saddled his horse. He was not just chasing a fugitive, he was chasing a fortune. He did not know that he was about to become the subject of a miracle, a man whose pursuit of worldly treasure would lead him to a promise of a heavenly one. Saraka spurred his horse, a magnificent creature swift as the desert wind, and galloped across the plains. His eyes, trained by years of experience, scanned the ground, and soon he picked up their trail. The tracks were fresh. He was getting closer. The thrill of the hunt and the thought of the 100 camels made his heart pound. He was a predator closing in on his prey. He pushed his horse harder, the wind whipping past his face, and then he saw them. 3 small figures in the distance, 2 men riding a camel and another man walking beside them. It was them. The prize was within his grasp. He drew his spear, preparing for the final charge, and then the first sign appeared. Without warning, his prized warhorse, a creature he trusted with his life, stumbled violently and threw him to the ground. Saraka, shocked and bruised, cursed his bad luck. He picked himself up, brushed the sand from his clothes, and felt a flicker of doubt. The fall was unnatural. As a man of his time, he turned to the pagan practice of divination. He reached into his quiver and pulled out his divining arrows, known as aslam. He drew an arrow to see if he should continue his pursuit. The arrow that came out was the one he hated. Do not harm them. This was a clear warning from his own gods. But the sight of the fugitives and the thought of the immense reward was too powerful. His arrogance and greed overwhelmed his superstition. He ignored the sign, mounted his horse, and once again charged forward. He got so close now that he could hear the sound of the Prophet Muhammad reciting the Quran. The Prophet did not turn his head, his focus entirely on his Lord. Abu Bakr, however, kept looking back, his face a mask of fear. Saraka raised his spear again, ready to strike. And then, the second sign. He once again drew his divining arrows, and once again the same forbidding arrow came out. He knew he was being warned. He knew he was fighting against a power he could not see. But the 100 camels were a blinding light in his mind. He managed to free his horse, but as soon as he mounted, a profound doubt entered him. The Quran perfectly describes this state where a person's own confidence becomes their downfall. But they plan, and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. Surah Al-Anfal 8:30. Suraka, in his arrogance, was planning to capture a prophet, but Allah was planning to capture his heart. He decided to try one last time. He spurred his horse for a final, desperate charge. And then came the final, unmistakable sign. A miracle so powerful it shattered his pride completely. The horse's legs sank into the earth again, but this time, as they did, a cloud of smoke and dust erupted from the ground in front of him, like a small explosion. The entire event is narrated in a stunningly detailed hadith preserved in Sahih al-Bukhari 3906. At that moment, Saraka knew his hunt was over. He was not chasing men. He was challenging the Lord of the heavens and the earth. And he had lost. The promise of a king's bracelets. The hunter had become the humbled. Saraka, his pride shattered and his heart now filled with a profound sense of awe and terror, knew he could not proceed. He was utterly defeated, not by a sword or a spear, but by an unseen power that protected these men. He sheathed his weapon. The desire for the 100 camels had evaporated, replaced by a desperate desire for his own safety. He called out to them, his voice no longer that of a predator, but of a supplicant. "O Muhammad, I know that this is your doing. I am Suraqa ibn Malik. Wait for me. I wish to speak with you. By Allah, I will not harm you." The Prophet and Abu Bakr stopped and waited. Saraka approached them. His entire demeanor changed. The fierce warrior was now a man seeking amnesty. He told them about the bounty the Quraysh had placed on their heads and offered them provisions, but they politely refused. His only request now was for a guarantee of safety, a written document from the Prophet that would protect him in the future, should the new faith become victorious. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in his infinite mercy, did not see an enemy before him. He saw a man whose heart was now open to the truth. He turned to one of his companions and instructed him to write the pledge of security for Saraka. Whenever he met other search parties, he would use his authority and knowledge of the desert to turn them back. Authoritative, "I've already searched this area," he would tell them. Firm, "There is no one here." The hunter had become the guardian. This miraculous turn of events is a perfect illustration of the divine protection mentioned in the Quran. And Allah sent down His tranquility upon him and supported him with soldiers you did not see. Surah At-Tawbah 9:40. Saraka had been an enemy soldier, but through a miracle, he had become one of the unseen forces that aided the Prophet's escape. But the most astonishing part of the story was yet to come. As Saraka was about to turn back, his heart full of awe and his hands holding a precious pledge of safety, the Prophet of God looked at him. Saraka was a strong man with sturdy wrists and arms. The Prophet looked at his arms and made one of the most audacious and seemingly impossible prophecies in history. He said to him, thoughtful, "O Saraka, how will you feel on the day when you will be wearing the bracelets of Khosrow?" Saraka was stunned into silence. Khosrow, the great emperor of Persia, one of the two superpowers of the known world. His empire was a dazzling civilization of immense wealth and military might. His treasury was the stuff of legends, and his personal golden bracelets were a symbol of absolute imperial power. And here, in the middle of the barren desert, a fugitive with a bounty on his head was promising a Bedouin warrior that he would one day wear the jewels of this mighty king. The promise was so fantastic, so far beyond the realm of possibility, that it was either the statement of a madman or the absolute truth of a prophet of God. And so ended the hunt for Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Saraka turned back towards Mecca, no longer a bounty hunter, but a man carrying a secret promise of a treasure far greater than 100 camels, a promise that would haunt him and guide him for years to come. The fulfillment of a desert prophecy. Years passed. The world shifted on its axis. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had passed away. But the light of Islam, which he had carried out of Mecca, now illuminated the entire Arabian Peninsula and was spreading like a dawn across the world. The promise made to Saraka in the desert, a moment of private prophecy, was now a memory buried under the weight of epic historical events. Saraka himself had accepted Islam and was now an old man, living a quiet life. The caliphate had passed to the second. In a series of stunning victories, the Persian army was defeated, their empire crumbled, and their legendary capital city was conquered. One day, a caravan arrived in Medina from the war front. It carried the spoils from the palace of the fallen Persian emperor. The treasures were laid out in the Prophet's mosque, a mountain of gold, silver, jewels, and brocaded carpets. The companions stared in awe. Among the treasures were the personal effects of Khosrow himself, his crown, his robes, and his famous golden bracelets, intricately crafted and embedded with precious gems. Umar ibn al-Khattab looked at the bracelets and his mind went back years to a story he had heard about a desperate day in the desert. He remembered the prophecy. He summoned the old Bedouin warrior Suraqa ibn Malik. "Suraqa," now aged and frail, came before the Caliph. Umar picked up the priceless golden bracelets of the dead emperor of Persia. He looked at Suraka, the man who had once tried to kill the Prophet for 100 camels. Then, in front of the assembled companions, he commanded Suraka to hold out his arms. He slid the magnificent, heavy bracelets onto the wrists of the old desert tracker. They fit perfectly. The prophecy, made by a fugitive in a moment of extreme vulnerability, had been fulfilled in a moment of Islam's greatest triumph. The companions looked on, tears streaming down their faces, witnessing a miracle unfold before their very eyes. They saw not just the jewels of a king on the arms of a Bedouin, but the absolute truthfulness of their prophet's words. This story is a profound lesson for all time. It is a powerful illustration of the Quranic principle, "And he will give you succession in the land and see how you will act." Surah Al-Araf 7:1-29. For modern Muslims, the legacy of Saraka is a source of immense hope and a powerful warning. The nature of wealth. Saraka chased a fleeting, worldly prize, camels, but was granted an eternal honor and a treasure he could never have imagined. It teaches us not to be blinded by the short-term gains of this world, because Allah's plan for the believers is always far greater. The mercy of a second chance. Suraka set out to be an enemy of the Prophet, but he became a decorated companion. His story is a testament to the fact that a person's intentions can change, and Allah's mercy is open to anyone who turns back to the truth, no matter what their past. The certainty of prophecy. In a world full of doubt, this story is a rock of certainty. A promise made under the most impossible of circumstances was fulfilled in the most spectacular way. It proves that the words of the Prophet Muhammad, which he spoke only by revelation, are the absolute truth.
Sahih Muslim 2889a. The bracelets of Khosru and the arms of Suraka were a small personal fulfillment of this grand global prophecy. The echoes of Suraka's galloping horse can be heard in every person's life who chases after a worldly desire at the expense of their principles. His story is a divine intervention, a call to stop, to look at the signs, and to realize that the path you are on may be leading you away from a treasure far greater than the one you are pursuing.